Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast, where we discuss life, love, laughter, and every single thing in between. Great Girlfriends. I am your host, Sybil, and my little co-host is here at my feet, Willie. And then I have all of you from all over the world listening in every Wednesday. So hey, how do you say Great Girlfriends in different languages? I need to look that up. Right now, I only have my English down, and I guess I would say in Spanish, would it be mas amigas? No? Mas chicas? I got to look it up. Look that up. Don't quote me on that really poor Spanish. But anyway, welcome. Ooh, y'all. We are right on the edge of 2021. And I'm kind of curious, are you one of the great girlfriends that bought your planner for 2021 last week? Or are you buying it next week? Or did you buy yours like me in October? I get so excited about my planner that I bought this really beautiful planner. It's from the same brand of planner that I have every year. I love it because it has a plastic cover over the top. So if I do spill something on it, it will not get on my pages. It comes with stickers. It's got all these different colors because I like to color code, because I got my pens and I got my stickies. And I'm busy. I'm about that planner life. Mind you, I guess people say there's a type A personality. I am not her, but I have so much respect for a planner because when I write it in my planner, I feel like it's so important. That's like my ground zero. And you'll see me carrying my planner like pastors carry Bibles. Like I hold that joint so close to my soul because when I need to know what's going on in my day, I will grab that planner. I turn to page 57 or whatever page, like you'll turn to a chapter, and I have to take a look before I can commit. Because the other thing you may not know about me, great girlfriends, is I will say yes before I even check my calendar. I thank God for Beth that's been holding me down and helping me keep that calendar clean. But what she cannot control is how I say yes in my text messages, and I'm just kind of all over the place with that. So I'm saying that to say my planner is like my little best friend that helps keep me accountable, and it helps, Beth keep a lens on what's going on with my time. And it just helps me feel like I'm really, really mastering my time and my commitments. So I'm not trying to sell you a planner right now. I am just trying to sell you stewardship, because that's been the theme of the podcast over the last few weeks. We've been talking about stewardship in different ways. We've started talking about things that you don't want to spend your time on. And we talked about essential conversations for the morning. And this week we have another conversation that kind of focuses on attention and that kind of flow. So before we get into that, here I go, asking you for your iTunes reviews. I want to make sure that your voice is heard, just like you voted in the election. I really, really, really want to hear your voice here on the podcast. I want to hear your reviews. I want to know what you think of the show. Again, we have such a huge community of women, and we get emails all the time of women saying thank you. This particular episode really blessed my life. This particular guest was amazing. I love this topic, etc. But then I'm like, yo, would you put that review on iTunes? Crickets. People are like, oh my God, I don't know how to do it. So here's how you do it. You go to the little podcast icon, and when you do, it opens up. You're going to click shows. And when you click shows, your number one show should be the Great Girlfriend Show. All right. So you're going to click on the Great Girlfriend Show, and then you'll see the icon, the beautiful avatar of the show, and you'll see all the episodes. You're going to scroll down. When you scroll down, you'll see ratings and reviews. And then right below ratings and reviews, you'll see a little bitty icon, and then you'll see write a review. So that is where you want to click. When you click there, you'll see ratings and reviews. You'll see 5 out of 5. You'll see 197 ratings. You'll see write a review. And that is where you click, my friends. And when you do, you just pour your heart's desire. You pour all your love and passion for the show right there. And I will have a chance to see it, read it, and thank you publicly here on the podcast, and just love on you like you love on us, So thank you so much for that. Now, having said that, I have one that I wanted to read, and I think this is really cool. This one is from LESL 2345. And she titled her review Tribe. She says, I love listening to the GG Pod. So refreshing and inspiring listening to the authenticity of the co-creating of this phenomenal tribe of women. Thank you. Thank you so very, very, very much. Tribe, community, village, that's what makes life so meaningful, so special. And so the Great Girlfriends was birthed out of the idea that if women can really, really power their friendship first with themselves and then with other people, everything else in your life will be supercharged. So this podcast has been dedicated to what life can look like when you have supercharged friendships, not just a regular old friend. What happens when you have great girlfriends? I myself can personally testify from every rooftop about the power of great girlfriends. And that's why I'm continuing to advocate for this message to go around the world. So I thank you and thank every single listener for being a part of that message experience, for trusting that. And if you have great girlfriendships, I want to hear those stories because we're working on some new media stories. I want to know if you have great girlfriend stories that you want to share. We want to hear those stories and we want to promote and celebrate those stories on our platform. And we also want to make sure that you understand if you don't have great girlfriends, we've got over 21,000 women in our Facebook community who are waiting to join forces and love on you. So head over to Facebook when you have a chance, search for the Great Girlfriends group and get in there and get friendly and get acquainted with other women who are just as amazing as you are. All right? So this week, Great Girlfriends, I want to salute a new book that's hitting the market, DIY PR, written by veteran publicist Nakia McClain. It is destined to be a New York Times bestseller, and we are going to help make sure that this book not only makes waves on the bestseller list, but gets in the hands of every single woman who needs PR. So this must-have yellow book is by the founder and CEO of Tanae Nicole Marketing and Public Relations. And in this book, Nakia reveals how to build a brand in a self-taught, user-friendly format. So, McClain breaks down step-by-step processes and ideas to help anyone, entrepreneur, talent, brand, small businesses, effectively execute a PR campaign or project or garner results. She also includes anecdotes about client successes as inspiration. And it's so much fun to read. I want to encourage you to head over to Amazon, look up DIY PR by Nakia McClain. Make sure you leave her a phenomenal review, and let's make sure that book hits the New York Times bestseller list. All righty. Now that we've gotten through, housekeeping of some sort, I want to get into this week's topic, and I want to read to you from a message from our newsletter that is probably a few years old, but it's still relevant, and I feel like it's essential right now. And so if you don't get our newsletter, you should. First of all, you can go to our website, thegreatgirlfriends.com, sign up there to get our weekly newsletters. They're always so empowering. Plain and simple. So this one, what's holding you back? Dear girlfriends, the time had come. My heart was beating so fast and my ego made me think of all of the things that could go wrong. My father had given me several reasons why I shouldn't do it. I didn't have the money I needed. I was leaving a good job, a real good job, y'all, real good. Anyway, I didn't have a place to stay long term. My nerves were doing somersaults as I started to digest the decision I had made. Everything in me told me to just stay and be comfortable. There were so many things trying to hold me back, but there I was in a family prayer circle preparing to board the plane for New York City. I knew in my heart that I had to take this risk. I knew that New York City was where I was destined to live and create. Without that move, I would not know the Great Girlfriends. You would not be reading this post. Identifying what's holding us back is the first step in moving forward. In most cases, moving forward is not about you. God wants to impact other lives through you. Moving forward is critical. All right, great girlfriends. So I'm reading that to you because, again, we're jumping really, really close to our 2021, and we're preparing our minds, hearts, spirits, bodies, soul, everything in our lives, good, bad, and ugly, to get up out of 2020. Okay, so I had a crazy 2020, and I'm sure many, many, many thousands of you may have had the same, just lots of things hitting from left, right, here and there. 2020 really forced me to look at what was going good, what was going bad, what was right, what was wrong, where we were spending too much money, where we weren't spending enough money, where we needed to invest our money, where we needed to stop investing, people I need to call more and people I need to call less. All the things that make life life, all the movements we make, all the decisions that influence and shape where we sit and where we're going. And when I think about moving forward, I realize that so many of us are doing almost a shuffle. We're taking one step forward, one step back, one step. We got a little tango, a little shuffle going. We're doing a little spin. We got a little tilt going back. All these things, this dance we're doing with life. And a lot of it is an emotional dance. And, you've got the mental dance, you've got the physical dance and the spiritual dance. Well, in our spirits, God has already prepared us to go forward. He's already equipped us. He's given us every tool, every asset, all the power, all the possibility, the relationships, everything that we need to move forward. But in our minds, there are so many things that hold us back. And so I want to talk to you today about these 5 things that could possibly be holding you back and keeping you from moving forward. And if you know that any of these trigger you, or if they are some of the ones that you can consider saboteurs, then you can jot them down. And you need to have a conversation with yourself and your great girlfriends, possibly your therapist, about the ways that you want to counter this decision making. Because let me tell you something. When I made that second move to New York, I want to be clear. I moved to New York for school. I graduated from grad school. I came back. I went back to New Orleans. And in New Orleans, that year that I was back in New Orleans, I knew I was supposed to go back to New York. And I was deathly afraid because I hated New York at the time. But I knew in my spirit, which was fully equipped to make that decision, that New York was calling me to go back. And so I did. And when I made that decision, trust and believe, my parents were like, is she okay? What's going on? I thought she hated New York. What is it? Is it a guy? What are the reasons? And all the prayers were happening and all the phone calls. And my dad did everything in his power to talk me out of it. And I just said, I know this is a decision I have to make. My spirit made that decision more than my mind had. My mind was still confused about whether or not New York was right for me, but I trusted my spirit so much. And my spirit was the gut power that I needed to pack up and go back to New York a year, literally maybe a month or 2 after I had come back home. And so I did. And now we're sitting on the other side of that decision. And I am so grateful that I trusted myself to move forward spiritually, that I trusted myself more than I trusted my parents' voices, that I trusted myself more than I trusted my emotions, my feelings, my disdain for the city that I now adore. Everything I hated about the city, I adore now. I'm passionate about. It's wild. It's wild what happens when you move with your gut and your spirit, how things look different to you. And I look at the family that I have established in New York through friends, and I look at all the relationships that were built and the businesses that were built, all the things that have really made my life story so rich. And I think about the idea that if I had listened to everything and everyone else, I would have missed my opportunity to trust me, to trust my gut, to lead with my heart, my spirit, my intuition, and to do what was being designed for me, what was set aside for me was this big decision that I needed to make. And I often think about how I had to step out of what was for sure my comfort zone. I mean, New Orleans is one of my favorite cities in the world. I love living there. I love being there. I love the spirit of the city, the food in the city. My apartment was amazing. So there was no good reason, and I had a great car and a great job. So there was no good reason why I would leave those things. It felt like an abandonment of some sort. That was a comfort zone. Why? Well, I needed to move forward. There was, on the other side of my comfort, there was all of these great leaps of faith, all of these great, I feel like leaps and bounds of ambition. One ambition propelled the next and the next and the next. And the next thing you knew, the same woman who never wanted to be married met a guy that she didn't want to live without. Kwaku, my boo. I have kids. I have a really, really great business and career and friends, and have built a lot of things that I'm really happy to have in my life that I've been gifted and blessed to be a part of just because of God's grace and the ambition and the leaps and bounds that were made on the other side of my comfort zone. I don't have this. I'm not the only one that has this story. Many of you are sitting in a place where you have made decisions that were uncomfortable, that you had to shift out of. You had to move a mountain. You had to say no to something that felt really comfortable and safe for you, to say yes to something bigger. And you didn't have the whole picture on the other side, but you knew that that decision was essential. So you know what I'm speaking of. What I'm talking about now is that next level of forward progression. And next level of forward progression is going to call on you to pull from that same muscle that allowed you to make that really incredibly powerful decision that you can look back at and say, I'm so glad I did that when I did that. That kind of decision. Again, because on the other side of that decision is a reward, a merit, an achievement, a peace, a growth, a strengthening and conditioning that you could never even imagine. I mean, the power that sits on the other side of you saying yes to yourself, yes to your higher self, your best self, your most potential-filled self, and no to your comfortable self. The growth there, it's a never-ending gift, because what I see on the other side of that decision to leave New Orleans is a never-ending gift of alignment, never-ending gift of growth, never-ending gift of nurture, of connection, of power, of impact. I learned who and how I would be the woman that I am today. I learned a little more about my design. I've been able to see myself before other people could see me. I started to see myself first. So I was able to affirm my decision, even when it felt weird and strange and uncomfortable to everyone else. It felt good for me for the time being. And then I built enough muscle. And I was like, you know what? This really is a great decision. So all of that. So what's holding you back? Let's look into it. Number one, I think sometimes is being afraid of public failure. You know, it's one thing for us to have private failures, the stuff people can't see, but it's the embarrassment that comes along with a public failure. You know, the idea that, you know, your family or people from your past job or people from your neighborhood or your bill collectors, whatever, the people that you are doing life with, that they might see you in a different light because you make a new choice, and that new choice feels or looks like a failure at first. Or maybe it's something that you make a choice with and you realize you want to do differently. Those things, being afraid of public failure is a sign that there's some bondage there, that you are more attached to people's impression of who you are than their impression or their acknowledgement of who you really are. You're more attached to their impression of who you are than their acknowledgement of who you really are. Because if they acknowledge who you really are, then they understand that you're human and you're going to make mistakes. And they're not concerned about your failures except but to love you through them. But the people that want to judge you when you fall or make you feel embarrassed, those are not your people anyway. Well, sometimes we get caught up in the idea that their perception matters. And if that is the case, you'll find yourself avoiding making major decisions unless they look good and shiny and pretty and positioned to be grand. That's not what it's about. That's not what these big decisions look like. When I moved back to New York, I went from a really beautiful apartment in New Orleans to a very small room, in a 5-floor walk-up in New York City in Midtown. It was not glamorous. It was nothing like my apartment in New Orleans, which was even more confusing to people. But the relationship in that apartment with the two people that I was living with in that apartment, they were the ones that introduced me to Kwaku. You never know how something that doesn't look so shiny, maybe it's a small beginning, right? Maybe it's an intro to a bigger gateway. Maybe it's a crack in the door. Maybe that's your entry point. How that can be the expansion, or that can be the micro step to the macro parts of your vision. You never know until you take that step and make that choice. But being afraid of public failure will keep you locked into other people's perception. And it's damaging to the woman that you are destined to become. So that's number one. If that's you, write that down. Write down, I am no longer bound to people's perception of me. I am not afraid of public failure. The second one is feeling like you're not enough. That whole thing of being inadequate. Am I enough? Do I look good enough? Am I pretty enough? Am I smart enough? Am I competent enough? Do I know enough? Right? Because if you're not enough, then you're going to have public failure. Then you're going to feel embarrassed. All these things tie together. But that feeling like you're not enough, it will keep you from moving forward. It's holding you back. It's locking you into to a point of complacency. Maybe you don't have all the answers. What if it's time for you to ask bigger questions? What if it's time for you to explore new territory? What if it's time for you to learn new things? What if it's time to refine your look? What if it's time to adjust a few things? Or what if it's time for you to just walk like you are, strong, bold, confident that the woman that you are is enough to get this thing started, moving in the right direction? I want to challenge you today. If that's your thinking that I'm not enough or am I enough, if that's things you've been saying or asking yourself, am I enough? I want to challenge you today. I want to stop you where you are and I want to give you a newsflash. Yes, you are enough. You are enough. In fact, you're more than enough. Any answers you don't have will be made available to you on the journey. Okay? So let me encourage you with that. Next, some people feel they're not popular enough. We're in that digital age. We're in the gram society where everybody is measuring by likes and everyone wants to be known for their followers and for their impact. And, I believe that 500 quality followers is better than 20,000, quantified followers who don't do anything to support your brand. I just put up a post recently, stop living your life according to likes. Because when you live your life according to likes, you will stop in your tracks. You will always feel like you need to check along the way and see who's there with you. You want to count to know if people are with you. You want to count to feel validated. That's not who you are. Your validation comes from the inside. God designed you purely validated and formed in his validation. That's super validation, great girlfriends. That's more than enough for you to begin and track along the way and create the impact that you need and build momentum to move forward and to not be held back by the popularity contest that had so many people stuck in high school and elementary and middle school and college. We're not there anymore. We're bigger than that. We're greater than that. We're stronger than that. We are more empowered than that. And so we don't want to be the type of women that get caught up in the idea that popularity equals power. Popularity does not equal power. Popularity does not equal power. You are powerful by design, and make sure you affirm that as well. I am powerful by design. If you believe that in your being, that is enough to move you forward and to keep you from being held in your tracks by the idea that not enough people are liking you. Okay? Those are lies. All right. The next one goes back to something we've been talking about at High Frequency, great girlfriends, and that's being bound to other people. Of course, we were not born in this world alone. We weren't born to live alone, nor were we born or expected to journey alone. But we were not expected to be bound to other people's expectations of who we are and what we're capable of. In fact, I believe that it's so super important for you to go back to the last couple of episodes because you're going to spend time diving deep into that bondage piece. Are you held back because other people think you should be in a different place, or they've known you for one thing, or you've been in one career for so long that you're afraid that people are going to judge you for jumping ship? Or you believe that, you hang with people who don't believe. Maybe they're not dreamers. Maybe they don't believe in entrepreneurship. Maybe they don't see the world the way you see it. Maybe their perspective on humanity is different. Maybe their perspective on life is different. But you're so caught in their perspective that you haven't found space for your own. I want to challenge you today that if you are so bound to other people's expectations, you are leaving a lot of desire on the table for yourself, great girlfriend. You haven't even created space to hear your own heart and recognize when your instinct or when your gut or when your spirit is speaking to you. And it's so important that you do that because all the big leaps and bounds that you're going to want to take in life, all the decisions that you need to make are aligned with that part of who you are. That part of who you are. And it doesn't mean that you have to be a heart-centric person. You can be you can be head-centric and still have heart desires that are nurtured, that are empowered to make space for it. The idea is that you're able to connect and plug into it so that you can use it when you need it, that you can lean into it and that you can be confident and clear when all of the people and the resources that come to you along the way are there to power you. Are they there to power you and propel you, or are they pushing you away from your destiny? When you've aligned with your heart, when you've given your spirit a voice, you will be able to discern the difference between the two. And then when it's time to digest a decision, it won't be so hard because you have the competency in your heart and your mind that you're in the right place doing the right thing at the right time. And then you'll be able to move yourself forward in confidence. In confidence. You'll take one step, and then you go through the process, you'll take the next step and the next step, and you'll keep moving and moving and moving as you are meant to do in life. Take the journey, move through the journey. Again, you're not going to make perfect steps. You'll make a lot of imperfect steps, but you'll be human to yourself and kind enough to yourself to know that even when you make an imperfect step, you're still in the right place because you stayed on the journey, friend. That's all you got to do. So I want to remind you, being afraid of public failure, feeling like you're not enough, and being bound to other people's expectations, those are saboteurs. They are there to sabotage, eat away at your legacy. And for us to be the great women that we've been called to be, we're going to have to move ourselves in a different way, different direction, no longer being bound to other people's expectations, recognizing that failure is not the end. Every time you drop something, you can pick it up. That's a new beginning. It's an invitation. It's an opportunity. And feeling like you're not enough has been a lie. It's a saboteur. It's a doubter. It's used to hold you in place and keep you held back and keep you away from your destiny. But what I'm talking about is moving you into your destiny. So I hope you'll take those things that you affirmed in this podcast episode, and I hope you'll take it and share it with another great girlfriend. Because as you move into 2021, no matter what the circumstance that comes your way, I want you to be prepared to hold in your hand keys to the kingdom, keys that can move you forward. All right. I want to hear from you. If you love this episode, do send an email over to welcome@thegreatgirlfriends.com. Much love and peace. Great girlfriends, did you enjoy this week's episode of the podcast? If so, would you please give us your amazing review on iTunes? Every single review helps another great girlfriend get plugged into the podcast, into the community. Speaking of community, make sure you join our Facebook group, The Great Girlfriends. You follow us on Instagram @The Great Girlfriends and on Twitter @the_great_GFS. Last but not least, we'd like to thank my amazing husband, Kwaku, Sam and Dilly, and all of you for being a part of the global community that makes us so strong. Please remember to share with your friends. Keep listening and keep being a great girlfriend. I'm Sybil, and I'm out. Peace.